Joe Biden and Donald Trump will face off in a historic 7th presidential election rematch this November. That is, barring something extraordinary happening. But the incumbent Democratic president and the former Republican president are not the only two candidates in this race. As of March 2024, the field also includes 3 notable third-party and independent candidates, with several more expected to enter contention over the coming months. Voter interest in alternatives to the major parties is at its highest point in 3 decades, meaning that unless there is a significant decline in support for Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and others over the summer and into the fall, the influence of third-party candidates on this 2024 electoral college map will be the single most decisive factor in determining the election's outcome. Within this context, let's explore the latest polling averages to determine whether Biden or Trump has more to lose. Before we get started, please make sure to subscribe to my channel down below and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of my content. My name is Ryan Guest, founder and sole operator of Election Predictions Official. I hope you enjoy the video. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is polling at an average of 15% in Real Clear Polling's latest average, assessing a 3-way race with Trump and Biden. According to Decision Desk HQ/The Hills average, Kennedy is polling at 11.4%, based on 86 polls. That is close to the lowest support he has held since he exited the Democratic primary and launched his own independent bid last October, down from as high as 15%. Still, 11% is nothing to scoff at. This would be the highest share of the vote for a non-major party presidential candidate since Ross Perot's first bid in 1992, when he garnered 18.2% of the vote. Third-party and independent candidates have averaged less than 3% of the nationwide vote in the 6 presidential elections held in the 21st century, with the highest percentage coming in the 2016 election between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton at 6.1%. RFK Jr.'s noticeably high polling numbers here in 2024 can largely be attributed to the unpopularity of the 2 likely major party candidates. Current polling averages from Decision Desk HQ indicate that almost 55% of American voters view Joe Biden unfavorably, while Donald Trump's unfavorability rating stands at 52%. These figures are somewhat lower and more generous to the candidates, actually, than those reported by Real Clear Polling, which currently lists Biden's unfavorability at 56% and Trump's at 54%. Given the stability of these ratings over the past year, and that very few people out there don't already have a very strong opinion either way about Biden or Trump, it is likely that a rematch would at least produce a third-party vote share similar to that of 2016, the only other time in the 21st century in which a majority of voters held unfavorable opinions of both candidates. Remember that in the 2016 presidential election, then Green Party nominee Jill Stein infamously drew enough votes away from Democrat Hillary Clinton in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan to help Donald Trump win all 3 states and thereby receive enough electoral votes to be elected president. Clinton lost Wisconsin by 23,000 votes, whereas Stein received 31,000 votes. The Democrat also fell short in Pennsylvania by 44,000 votes, where Stein received 50,000. And finally, in Michigan, 2016's closest contest, Clinton lost to Trump by just 11,000 votes, and Stein received the support of 51,000 voters in the state. Had even just 90% of Green Party voters in those states cast their ballots for Clinton rather than Stein, which wouldn't have been surprising since the Green Party represents liberal policy views, Trump would have never become president. That should give anyone enough reason to recognize the significance of third-party bids in a 2024 election that is expected to be just as tightly contested. And keep in mind as well that Stein received just 1% of the national popular vote in 2016, and here in 2024, we're talking about third parties potentially reaching double digits. On that note, as per the latest polling data from Decision Desk HQ and Real Clear Polling, RFK Jr. is currently drawing an average of 6.1% of Trump support away from him, compared to 7.7% of Biden's support. How did I get these numbers? Well, I just took Biden and Trump's head-to-head vote shares in DDHQ's and RCP's averages, and then subtracted their vote shares in the three-way race averages to see who lost more support with RFK Jr. included in the ballot question. We can use these numbers to roughly estimate that for every 1% of the national popular vote that Kennedy receives, Biden will lose 0.54% of his support, while Trump will lose 0.46%. Now that's not that big of a difference, unless of course Kennedy receives a very large share, in which case the Biden campaign should become increasingly concerned. As for example, let's say that Kennedy receives exactly 10% of the national popular vote. Biden would lose 5.4% and Trump 4.6%. That 0.8% difference is larger than Biden's 2020 margins in Georgia, Arizona, and Wisconsin. If all three had voted Republican in that election, he would not have won. Now, it should be said that independent and third-party candidates have historically underperformed their early polling numbers by the time of the election. A big issue facing pollsters here is that voters can be pretty poor predictors of their own behavior. Simply saying that you will vote for a long-shot candidate weeks or months before Election Day, like right now, is much different than holding a ballot in your hands and voting for a candidate that you know can't win. No third-party candidate has received a single electoral vote via the Electoral College in over 50 years, and America has not elected a non-major party presidential candidate since George Washington. 2016 again serves as a perfect example. Trump and Clinton were both extremely unpopular at the time, and as a result, the combined support of the two most prominent third-party candidates, Stein and Libertarian Gary Johnson, often reached 10% in mid-election year polling. Yet in the end, Johnson and other third-party candidates collectively received just 6% of the popular vote. Another factor to keep in mind is that it is harder to get on the ballot in some states than in others, and some individual third-party candidacies can generate unique levels of support in some states or regions while being virtually non-existent elsewhere. In my own data-driven 2024 presidential election forecast, which you can check out for yourself at electionpredictionsofficial.com, third parties are currently projected to combine for 7.6% of the national vote, but the vote share in individual states ranges from as low as 4% all the way up to 15%. These differences are based on patterns from recent history. The state with the highest average third-party vote share since 2000 is Utah at 8.2%. Unsurprising, as that average is boosted by independent candidate Evan McMullen's anti-Trump independent candidacy in 2016. He got 21.3% in his home state of Utah that year, by far his best performance anywhere in the country, and also by far the best single third-party candidacy in any state this century. That being said, the third-party share in Utah was also higher though than the national share in each of the other 5 elections in this century. So while 2016 was definitely fluky and very, very high abnormally, third-party performance in Utah has otherwise been good in recent years. Utah also does point towards a broader trend. Third parties do tend to perform better in states in the West. Along with Utah, there is Alaska, Colorado, New Mexico, Oregon, and Washington, as well as Idaho, just to name a few. The logic here actually makes a lot of sense. The two consistently balloted third parties, the Libertarians and the Greens, have greater appeal to West Coast liberals and rural Westerners. This data also aligns with a regional breakdown in a Marist College poll that had Kennedy doing best out west at 22%. His Midwest support was very similar at 19%, with the South and Northeast lagging behind at 13% and 14%, respectively. This also aligns with the fact that the Deep South dominates the list of low third-party vote shares since 2000. In fact, 9 of the 10 lowest projected third-party vote shares in my forecast are in states that were part of the Confederacy during the Civil War, with the one exception being Oklahoma, effectively still a southern state. With all of that being said, of greatest interest to us as election analysts, as well as the Democratic and Republican parties themselves, is how third parties tend to perform in the key battlegrounds. 7 states were decided by 3 points or less in 2020: Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. Georgia and North Carolina in the South are among the 10 lowest performing third-party states, while Pennsylvania and Michigan are also on the lower end of the average. The Keystone State was just a couple of hundredths of a point from being in the bottom 10. Wisconsin, meanwhile, is basically right at the average, and Arizona is a little above average. Of these core swing states, Nevada has had the highest average third-party vote share in recent elections. Nevada offers an explicit none of these candidates option, which likely contributes to this higher average. In fact, this option has gotten at least 0.4% of the vote in every election this century, and that is just about how much higher Nevada's average third-party voting is compared to the rest of the country. Nevada and Arizona being a little bit higher than the average also just fits in with them being Western states, given the heightened support that recent third-party candidates have gotten in this region. So, while there are several states with a recent track record of clearly higher than average third-party performances, the states most likely to decide the election are not really among them. That doesn't mean that third-party votes in these states are unimportant. It just means that we shouldn't expect third-party candidates to do better in them than they do nationally. It may also be that the argument that voting third-party is a wasted vote is perhaps most persuasive in the top battlegrounds. Now, with all of that data in mind, let's shift over to this 2024 Electoral College map, where I have already filled in the states leaning strongly toward one party based on 2020's results, as well as prediction factors like polling, shifts, trends, betting markets, industry ratings, and so much more. Safe states, the darkest shade of red or blue, are projected to be decided by a margin greater than 12 points in either direction. Likely states by 7 to 12 points, and lean states by 2 to 7 points. The 6 key battlegrounds, Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, are the states that we will be focusing in on today as we take a look at whether Donald Trump or Joe Biden stand to lose more from third-party bids. Starting in the Midwest, specifically the upper Rust Belt trio of Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. I call them a trio because they have voted for the same candidate as one another in each of the last 9 elections. They backed Democrats in all but one of them, that being 2016 when Trump sweeped all 3, proving decisive as had Clinton held them, she would have defeated Trump. Then in 2020, Biden flipped all 3 back into his column, but had Trump held them, he would have been reelected. As we briefly discussed earlier, all 3 states' average third-party vote share since 2000 rank below the national average. Wisconsin is 32nd at 1.52%, Michigan 37th at 1.43%, and Pennsylvania 42nd at 1.3%. Now, according to my EPO forecast, using 2024 polling data, non-major party candidates are projected to receive 7% of the vote in Wisconsin, 6.9% in Michigan, and 6.4% in Pennsylvania. Now, building off of the same formula that we went over earlier, where for every 1% that Kennedy receives, Trump loses 0.46% and Biden 0.54%, let's assume, for the sake of the argument, that those splits hold up when including all of the other candidates and in every single state. Since third parties are projected to receive 7% in Wisconsin, Biden is expected to lose 3.8% of his support, according to this formula, compared to Trump losing 3.2%. That is a 0.6% margin difference, which ironically enough is the exact margin that Biden won with in 2020. Now, assuming that the national environment in 2024 is more favorable to Trump overall, given the overwhelming amounts of polling data suggesting that he will perform better than he did in 2020, I am going to place Wisconsin in the tilt Republican category. The RFK effect's difference would of course be similar in Michigan and Pennsylvania, as they have similar projected third-party vote shares. Both are 0.5% differences between Biden and Trump. I'm putting Michigan down though as tilt Democrat, while Pennsylvania will tilt Republican. I am a firm believer that Trump will need more to go his way to flip Michigan in 2024 after it voted for Biden by 3 points in 2020. And has seen a string of strong Democratic performances in down-ballot races since. Pennsylvania, to me, is a bit more of a toss-up in my mind, as a Biden +1 state in 2020, as opposed to Michigan being Biden +3. Trump's recent polling numbers in Pennsylvania have also been really strong, and this 0.5% swing is enough for me to flip it in this scenario. As for the 3 Sunbelt states, Nevada ranks 12th among all U.S. states in average 21st century third-party vote share, Arizona 22nd, and Georgia all the way down in 44th. The projected non-major party vote shares, according to my forecast, range from 8.9% in Nevada to 8% on the dot in Arizona, and down to 6% in Georgia. The polling calculations here find that Trump would net gain on Biden by 0.8% in Nevada, 0.6% in Arizona, and 0.4% in Georgia, as a result of RFK's impact on the race. With that in mind, I'm going to place all 3 states in the tilt Republican category. At this point, it would be foolish to give Biden better than 50-50 odds in any of these states, as Trump leads by more than 5 percentage points currently in all 3, according to Decision Desk HQ's polling averages. So, in the race to 270 electoral votes, Trump is projected to win 297 to Biden's 241, flipping Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada en route to a victory here, benefiting from the independent candidacy of Robert F. Kennedy Jr., polling more support from Biden than himself. Let me know in the comments what you think of this map and the points made in this video. I appreciate all positive or negative comments. Shout out to my channel members on screen here. Thank you so much for your support. If you would like to become a member, go ahead and click the join button below this video to receive exclusive perks. Make sure also to subscribe to my channel down below, and please leave a like if you enjoyed it. You can check out more content from my channel here, and as always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. EP out.